Today we're going to put the two top flat benches out there up against each other to determine which is the better choice for your home gym, the Value Play or the American Monster. These are the most popular, highest rated benches that are recommended by pretty much everyone who's used one. And I spent years touting Rep's bench, the FB-5000 competition flat bench, as the best choice for your home gym. And it's the most popular choice out there for a good reason. But being popular isn't everything. At least that's what I told myself in high school, but it is the best-selling flat bench. It's got a great design, good specs, and that price is incredibly difficult to compete with, which is why it's widely regarded as the best bench for most people, that price. And there aren't really many people who need anything better, but home gyms aren't built on need, they're built on obsessions. So do those quality make it the best bench? Well, we're about to find out, which is why I brought in a heavy hitter with the Rogue Monster Utility Bench version 2.0, which, price aside, may very well be the actual best flat bench out there. So we're going to do a side-by-side comparison and determine which is the superior bench, but more importantly, which one's right for you. Let's start with the similarities, which is where I have to acknowledge there are a lot of other really good flat bench options out there. But mostly they're trying to keep up with or copy these because how much can you really do with a flat bench? And I should mention we're talking about the most up-to-date versions of both of these because each had earlier renditions and they've evolved some from there. And you could probably make the case that Rogue's second version of the Monster Bench came about to compete directly with the FB-5000. Both benches have wheels and a handle, and since they're fairly lightweight, they're easy to move around, though depending which pad you put on them, because they are somewhat customizable, you could add up to another 20 pounds to their weight, but they'll still be easy to move around, even given their solid builds. They're made of 3x3 11-gauge steel with rubber feet on all the legs, which helps them from sliding and protects your floors and can even help keep them stable on uneven flooring. They both have a tripod design which gives you plenty of room for your feet so that front post never gets in the way when you're using the bench, which is a huge pet peeve of mine. There's nothing worse than having to work around your equipment. We'll call this a similarity, but it's a little bit of a stretch, and that's that they both can be stored vertically. And I've been doing that with my FB-5000 for years without any issues to my pad. But Rogue's technically has a UHMW cap to keep the pad off the ground, and I will say with a fat pad it can teeter a little bit, and though it's never fallen, if you have an uncoordinated kid, you might want to be careful. The only difference in their footprints is that Rogue's bench has a little bit wider of a rear end, which some of us might have a weakness for, and that's because those back feet come out a little bit more, making it about 6 inches wider in total on that back side, which might be a little bit wide for some. They're identical up front, but those back legs on the Monster do make it a little bit more stable than the FB-5000, not that Rep's bench has a stability issue. And they also both conform to IPF specs as long as you build them that way. But more on stability and way you can build these things in a minute. Where these benches become a little bit more interesting is in their differences, but because they are somewhat customizable, it makes it a little more difficult to compare them, but I'll do my best to break it down. And every item we've talked about in this video will be linked in the description. The biggest difference in these benches is the prices, with the FB-5000 sitting at $210 shipped before tax, which is a big reason it's such a popular piece. And the Rogue Monster Utility Bench runs anywhere from $340 to $460 before tax, depending on how you have it configured. Why are those prices so different? For one, Rep imports its benches from overseas, whereas Rogue makes their benches here in the United States. And two, Rogue's bench really is the better built bench overall, but the question we're trying to answer is, how important is that to you? So let's talk about some of the options you have with these benches. For Rogue, you can choose your bench's height, which is typically based on the pad you choose. You can select between the standard pad or upgrade to the competition pad, which I've got here, or Thompson Fat Pad for $50 more. You can also choose between the standard handle or the stainless steel knurled handle, which absolutely nobody needs, but of course I still got it. With Reps, you have more finish options, which means you have finish options, and can choose between the red, blue, metallic, or matte black, and the clear coat, which I absolutely love on my AB5200. And if you watch our other Rep reviews, you'll be able to see those various finish options. Speaking of reviews, we've been building up our adjustable bench collection, much to the delight of Winnie, so make sure you subscribe so I can justify that addiction, and also so you don't miss out on our big adjustable bench showdown that we're going to be doing once I stopped buying benches. With Rep, you can also choose between the standard 12-inch wide pad, or for another $30, you can select their actual wide pad, which is 14 inches wide. Simple enough, right? Except you can put a Rogue Competition or Thompson Fat Pad on this thing. But unless you have one of those sitting around, you'll have to buy them separately, and that really makes their prices nearly identical. The FB-5000 has a listed weight capacity of 1,000 pounds, and Rogue's doesn't have a published weight capacity, which isn't an oversight. This thing is an absolute unit. And if you're thinking, what does it matter? Who's putting 1,000 pounds on these benches? That's not really the point at this level. As a generalization, the higher the capacity, the more stable the equipment, and that pattern follows here as well. Sure, the FB-5000 will handle whatever you throw at it, and it's not going anywhere. But I've had it rock a little at times while setting up for things like heavy Bulgarian split squats or barbell hip thrusts, and Rogue's bench just doesn't budge. Ever. Alright, now for the pads, which is where I give Rogue the advantage, though that's of course ignoring the fact that you can put the Competition or Fat Pad onto the FB-5000. And if you upgrade your monster bench to either of those pad options, which I really recommend you do because I'm not a big fan of Rogue's standard vinyl, though some people do like it. Actually, I bullied Rogue so hard on this one in my Rogue AB 3.0 review that they don't even offer that standard vinyl as an option anymore. A more modest man might admit that there could be other reasons for that, but no, not me. I did that. Anyway, that pad, in my opinion, is a downgrade from Rep's vinyl because it's just a little bit too slippery. But Rogue's vinyl, at least with those two upgraded options, is much, much grippier. You're not going anywhere on this thing. The vinyl also feels thicker and more durable. And while the FB-5000 stitching is good and has held up well for the most part, Rogue's does seem a little better overall. Which may be why Rogue has a 90-day warranty on their vinyl versus Rep's 30 days. And actually another difference, not that this one's really going to matter much because they're both great, but Rogue has a lifetime warranty on the frame and welds, whereas Rep's is 10 years. But this might be one of those places where those upgrades that Rogue's offering you really aren't worth it to most people, because I actually really like the grip and feel of Rep's vinyl. And I think overall the majority of people feel the same way and will never look elsewhere, but that doesn't take away from Donnie Thompson's collaboration with Rogue here. And once you adjust to this firmer and grippier pad, it's incredible. And if you're going to go over the top with Rogue's bench, it makes sense to build it with one of those improved pads. Okay, so you've committed to one of Rogue's upgraded pads and you're wondering, what's the difference between the Thompson Fat Pad and the Competition pad? Well, functionally, they're identical, featuring the same vinyl and pad thickness. The only real difference between them is that the Thompson Fat Pad is 2 inches wider at 14.5 inches. So it would take your bench out of IPF specs on width just like Rep's wide pad would, but these benches are great for anyone who like it thick and want to enjoy a little additional padding. But if you want to keep your FB-5000 within IPF specs, you can just leave it as is with the narrow pad, as they call it. That's the 12-inch pad. This one right here, or you can put the Rogue Competition pad on it if you enjoy a little extra grip and need an extra ½ inch. That ½ inch height difference comes from the fact that Rep's pad is 4 inches thick and Rogue's upgrades are 4.5. But Rep designed their bench to remain within IPF specs even with that additional height, so no worries there. Rogue, on the other hand, created two versions of their bench, so you'll want to put those larger pads on the shorty version, because the standard height version is really made for the standard 2.5 inch thick pad. Rogue's is a more polished design with the gusseted plates supporting the pad, the laser cut and embedded logos versus a sticker, and overall it's just a beefier build, which does make it a little heavier. Not that the FB-5000 is really lacking in any way. I've loved using this thing for years and will continue to do so. So which is the best bench? Money aside, Rogue's bench is superior with one of those fat pad options. Sure, the fit and finish are overkill and most of us really won't notice the upgrades during use, but this is an exceptional bench and I'm not sure I'd change much on it. But if you're value shopping, I still highly recommend the FB-5000 because dollar for dollar, it's really not a competition, because this bench with the upgraded pads is nearly twice the price and you're not really getting twice the bench. But I'm not really sure you can choose wrong with either of these here. If you want a more in-depth look of this bench, take a look at that video right there. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe to boost us on that algorithm. Thanks for your support. I'll see you next week.